So let's get right into it. This is the first video of me, or should I say, this is part one of me discussing this Frank's hearing document regarding the Idaho Fort case. Now, I'm going to be all over the place because this whole case is all over the place. So just try and bear with me here. Okay, so I'm going to be starting at page 9. Starting at page 9, it goes on to state that the defendant has not met his Frank's burden challenging eyewitness statement, and that is regarding Dylan Mortensen. It goes on to state that defendant also contends that law enforcement misrepresented statements made by DM Dylan Mortensen that would have demonstrated her unreliability. The defense claims these statements made by DM were false statements and are exculpatory to the defendant's defense. Now, at the bottom of page 9, it states DM was a roommate of the deceased and was in her own bedroom at the time of the homicides. So for those of you who are saying, oh, she went downstairs or she left the house, XYZ, which I never believe, this document clearly states she was in her room the entire time. So therefore, she had to tell the investigators that she was in her room the entire time. Then it goes on to say DM account of what occurred the early morning hours were remarkably consistent, which for the life of me, I cannot get how they got to that conclusion. And I'll tell you why. In this document, it states DM interview statements that her memory were fuzzy and dreamlike and may have been affected by being tired or under the influence of alcohol, which they say that do not basically equate to her reliability. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? So then the defense go on to challenge that DM, Dylan Mortensen, could not point Bryan Kohberger out of a lineup. It states that DM failure to recognize the photo of the defendant is of no consequence given that the intruder she saw was masked, which leads me to believe that they only showed her a picture of Bryan Kohberger with his full face. Why did they not go and get a replica ski mask of what this alleged intruder was wearing and had him put it on, snap a picture of him, and show it to DM Dylan Mortensen to see if she could recognize it or not? That would have been very important to me. So this passage here below that I am about to read that I believe is very important is from page 13 of these documents. It goes on to say, defendant next asserts that the probable cause statements omitted important information bearing on Dylan Mortensen reliability. Defendant notes that DM qualified her interview statements on several occasions by questioning her memory of the event. So Dylan Mortensen told Detective Mowry, which was one of the detectives she spoke to, she stated, and I quote, everything was kind of blurry. Like, I don't fully remember it, I would say, Dylan Mortensen states. And then she goes on to tell Detective Gooch, she stated, again, I believe I was also very drunk. I don't know how much of this is real. Like, I don't know if my mind was, doing whatever. I don't know any of it. Like, half this stuff, I don't know if it's a dream or if it's real. I just have no clue. So this defendant, so Dylan Mortensen, not defendant, Bryan Kohberger is the defendant, but you guys know how I feel about Dylan Mortensen. However, so Dylan Mortensen goes on to say, I just read it to you. You can read it yourself. Look up the documents on page 13 and read it yourself. She basically states she also, again, I also believe I was very drunk. For somebody who is very drunk, you sure do recall a lot. For somebody who is very drunk to get out of your bed 3 times after witnessing all these events, I wouldn't classify that as very drunk. And if you're very drunk, you mean to tell me in those entire 8 hours she did not have to go to the bathroom not one time? I'm simply not buying it. And then it goes on to say, she also said her memory was fuzzy and cloudy and she could not differentiate if anything is real or if anything is a dream. This information was not included in the Exhibit A's, says the defense team. And then it goes on to say, according to defendant, this information was crucial to allow the magistrate to properly evaluate Dylan Mortensen's reliability, and its omission was material and exculpatory. I do not understand how they cannot come to the conclusion that she is an unreliable witness. How is it possible that everything occurred in those early morning hours you thought was a dream? That you didn't know what you were experiencing was real? It does not make sense. Your memory was fuzzy and cloudy, yet you were so very drunk, but you were able to get such a good description of this figure in your house. And I question how lit was this area where she was able to get this description of this alleged suspect. Now I'm going to take it back a little bit to page 10. So page 10 is basically Exhibit A from the original PCA that was given to us from the very beginning, December 2022. So it goes on to say DM made these statements during her interview with law enforcement. She made statements that indicated the occupants of the King Road residence were at home by 2 a.m. and reportedly asleep by approximately 4 a.m. This is with the exception of Cornudo, who received a DoorDash order at the residence at approximately 4 a.m. DM also states she was awoken at approximately 4 a.m. by what she stated sounded like Gonzalez playing with her dog in one of the upstairs bedrooms, which were located on the third floor. A short time later, DM said she heard who she thought was Gonzalez say something to the effect of "there's someone here." There's no thought. She either heard it or she didn't. She clearly knew Kaylee's voice. But I digress right now. And then it goes to say a review of forensic records associated with the download of Cornudo's cellular phone indicated she was likely awake and using the TikTok app at approximately 4:12 a.m. DM stated she looked out of her bedroom but did not see anything when she heard the comment about someone being in the house. DM stated she opened her door a second time when she heard what she thought was crying coming from Cornudo's room. DM then said she heard a male voice say something to the effect of "It's okay, I'm going to help you." At approximately 4:17 a.m., a camera at 1112 King Road picked up audio of what sounded like a struggle coming from off camera. The security camera is less than 50 feet from Cornudo's bedroom wall. The struggle lasted less than 1 minute, and unintelligible sounds can be heard on the camera. DM stated she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying and saw a figure clad in black clothing and mask that covered the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. Pay attention to that part. She saw this covering the person's mouth and nose walking towards her. DM described the figure as 5'10" or taller, male, not very muscular, but athletically built with bushy eyebrows. The male walked past DM as she stood in a frozen shock phase as the male walked towards the backsliding glass door. DM locked herself in her room after seeing the male, and it stops there. All of that, you account all of that, but you didn't know what you were experiencing was real. You were not that drunk to hear what you were hearing, to consciously open your door because you heard all this stuff that alarmed you to open your door. You were not drunk. Any drunk person, they're just going to stay passed out. Okay? I have been inebriated before, and I gotten inebriated to the point that I cannot get up, that I just black out. I'm asleep. I don't hear anything around me. But she was not very drunk as she's proclaiming to be because she heard all this stuff, which prompted her to open her door. How can a camera at another house about 50 feet away pick up on a struggle, yet Dylan Mortensen didn't hear a struggle going on, but she heard all this other stuff going on? She heard someone running up and down the stairs, which she believed was Kaylee Gonzalez. She believed was Kaylee Gonzalez playing with her dog. She heard a male voice say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She heard whimpering coming from Xana's room, but she didn't hear a struggle that a security camera down the road picked up on. I'm not buying this. And for you guys who are trying to gaslight other people to believe your narrative that she is just an innocent bystander who has nothing to do with it, in my opinion, there's a lot that just don't add up when it comes to Dylan Mortensen. So then it goes on to state that Dylan Mortensen has sat for at least 3 interviews with law enforcement. 2 on November 13, 2022, one with Officer Nunez and later with Detective Mowry, and one on November 17, 2022 with Detective Gooch. Her description of the intruder was notably similar during all 3 interviews, as they allege. And then they go on to state she said white male, slim, skinny, lean body type, slightly taller than DM, who's 5'10", wearing all black, wearing a mask that was covering his forehead and his mouth. A voice she didn't recognize saying he was here to help. And the intruder walked out or towards the backsliding door without saying anything to her. Did you hear what I just said? Part 2 is up next. Okay, this is part 2. I'm getting right into it. So again, I ended the last video with DM stated the intruder walked out or towards the backsliding door without saying anything to her. While she did not tell Officer Nunez that she noticed the intruder carrying a vacuum type object in his hand, she did convey that information to Detective Mowry later that day, as well as to Detective Gooch a few days after that. A vacuum type object? What could that have been? And when did Dylan Mortensen see this person carrying this vacuum like object? Was it when he was walking towards her or when he was leaving out the sliding door? Okay, but I need you guys to understand something. In order for Dylan Mortensen, sorry, my video cut off, but in order for Mortensen to see this person walk to the sliding glass door or walk out the sliding glass door, she had to have gotten out of her room to some degree. In my humble opinion, I do not believe she could peek out her door and see this person actually walking out the sliding glass door. This over here to the top right corner is the alleged entryway and exitway of this alleged suspect. Dylan Mortensen's room is right here. I'm not sure how that door opened, but either way, she would have to step out into the hallway, a little bit into the kitchen, in my opinion, to see this alleged person walk outside the door. And when she stepped outside of her room, there's no way she could not tell that there was things disheveled. There's no way that she did not feel or believe that there was something going on, which obviously she did believe that, right? Because it was told to us, and it was said in the original PCA that she was in this frozen shock phase at this figure walk past her, and then she locked herself in her room. To lock yourself in your room, you fear something. You're trying to keep something or someone out. So for people who constantly say, oh, how is she supposed to assume that all of her roommates were unalive? How would she know that? Get out of here. And then Dylan Mortensen went on to tell Detective Gooch that she remembered bushy eyebrows, but she don't remember the color. I tell you, for somebody who was very drunk, as she alleged, she sure can remember, and she sure did see a lot. Again, page 11 of these documents, I don't understand how she can say for certain that this person exited out that doorway without stepping outside of her room. And how does she know there was not another intruder inside? How does she know this person actually left and just didn't step outside or didn't go somewhere else and was planning to come back? What made her feel safe enough to stay in that house for all those hours later if she was allegedly so scared that she locked herself in her room? And then when it stated at 4:17 a.m., the security camera at house 1112 King Road picked up on a struggle, which lasted less than a minute. And people are constantly, and I feel like this shuts down the people who say, oh, well, she didn't know that there was a struggle going on. She didn't know that her roommates were being unalive. How can a camera down the road pick up on a struggle? And I literally said that there was a struggle, not only because Xana and Kaylee had defensive wounds, but Ethan was 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". Look at him. He's athletic. He's built. He's young. He's active. He would have very well have fought. He would have very well had did something instead of just not fight at all, unless he was harmed in a way that prevented him from doing so. But I just don't understand how people can constantly say that Dylan Mortensen, how was she supposed to know or assume that her roommates were being unalive? Look at all these freaking accounts, okay? That's how. And maybe she wouldn't have drawn to that conclusion, but she at least got to the conclusion that there's something going on that's not normal. And for those of you to today who still state that, oh, maybe she thought that they had friends over, there was a party going on, you don't belong here, okay? Okay, so I'm going to skip down to page 15 towards the top. It says, for example, the security camera from 1112 King Road picked up audio of a struggle at 4:17 a.m., which coincides with when DM stated she thought was crying from Miss Cornudo's room in a male voice speaking. So there was a struggle going on between Xana and this alleged intruder. She heard all of that. But she didn't know if what she was experiencing was real or it was a dream. Get the fuck out of here. And I'm really not trying. I get so upset because this stuff is right in front of our face, and yet people still choose to pick and choose what they want to listen to so it fits their narrative. But then it goes on to say it was shortly after she opened the door for a third time and she saw the suspect walk by her toward the sliding glass door. Walk by her. This alleged person just killed 4 people. Do you really think that they're going to leave alive another person? So her door, in order for her to see that this suspect walked by her door had to have been open to some degree. What stopped this alleged intruder from going into that door? They just killed 4 people, okay? They just killed 4 people. What will stop them from going in that door? Especially if the door was cracked or if the door was open. Why? First of all, when this person entered the house, it's been said and alleged that the killing started on the third floor. Why would they walk past that room? That door is the first door that they will see. How would this alleged intruder know that their alleged targets were not behind that door? It's because they knew. The truth is something that never has to be remembered. We are taught that from a very young age. This vacuum like object that she allegedly saw this intruder carrying, and some people was like, oh, maybe it was the murder weapon. I highly doubt that, okay? And why was that not disclosed on her first interview, okay? Her second interview was 4 days later. 4 days later. So she had time to concoct this story, in my opinion, or to add information or take away information. I simply cannot understand how she can either say A, she was very drunk, and B, that she didn't know what she was experiencing was really real. How do you not believe that it was really real? And even 8 hours later, which I highly doubt she didn't have to go to the bathroom through those entire 8 hours, but even 8 hours later, did she text her roommates upstairs? Did she text Xana? Did she text Ethan? We know she texted Bethany, and we don't know what that conversation was. But did she text anybody else that next morning? If she had no idea what was going on, and if she didn't know what she was experiencing was really real or not, the first thing I'm going to do when I wake up that morning, 8 hours later, I'm going to text my other roommates just to see, or I'm going to call them. Or matter of fact, we're all in the house together. I'm going to walk outside my room and go upstairs or go across the hall to Xana and Ethan and be like, guys, I had the craziest dream last night. No, none of that happened because, in my opinion, she knew a lot more and she knows a lot more than what she's saying. And it's like nobody wants to get to the bottom of things. It's like, who does she know that has some type of power in this county or in that state? Because if she, or if she looked like me, or if she was a male or something of that nature, this would be, you guys will not be showing her the same grace. So don't try to play like you will, because you wouldn't. There's something off about this case, and it's only, I thought it was confusing before, but it's only getting that much more confusing. But one thing that's not getting confusing for me is my suspicion around Dylan Mortensen and what she knows, what she actually knows about this case, what she's holding back about this case. Okay, so now we're going to skip down to page 22, which further supports my account that Dylan Mortensen had some idea of what was going on. That she did not, I don't buy the everything was fuzzy. I didn't know if what I was experiencing was real. I didn't know if it was real. Page 22 further supports that. So stay tuned for part 3. Welcome to part 3. We're going to go to page 22. Yes, I understand I'm skipping around a lot, but there's just so much to unpack, and it's just a lot. So page 22, it goes on to talk about how the defendant, Bryan Kohberger, has not met his Frank's burden on issue number 6, which is the dog barking Murphy. Okay, so this paragraph, it goes on to state the defendant challenges omissions pertaining to the barking dog reference in the Payne's Exhibit A, Detective Payne. It states that at 4:17 a.m., a security camera located at a nearby residence on King Road picked up distorted audio of what sounded like voices or a whimper followed by a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking numerous times starting at 4:17 a.m. The only other information in the Payne Exhibit A pertaining to a dog refers to the fact that Kaylee Gonsalves' dog Murphy was found in her bedroom by first responders. What? And I say what like that because from the very beginning I stated and I stood on and I still stand on that it was not Kaylee who put Murphy in Kaylee's old bedroom, which she was already moved out of. Kaylee loved this dog. If you hear how people spoke about her and Murphy relationship, she only came to that house that weekend to show Maddie her new car. And she decided to bring Murphy with her. She could have easily let Murphy at home, but no, that's not in her nature because she loves her dog so much and she's close to her dog. So I always found it hard to believe that Kaylee would put Murphy in her other empty room just so she could sleep. Like, why? There's no way that Murphy would have bothered her or Maddie to the point where she felt like she had to put Murphy in the other room. I said from the very beginning that Murphy was put into the other room by someone else, and people constantly stated, oh, well, I have a dog and I don't always sleep with my dog. My dog is in the other room. Stop pertaining your situation to this case. It has nothing to do with this case. Oh, but it gets better. I also hold true or stand by to the claim that it was not Kaylee who put Murphy in the other room. So on page 22, we're still on 22, it goes on to state the defendant contends that Detective Payne failed to include three allegedly important pieces of information pertaining to the dog, Murphy. Number one, that the dog heard on the security camera continued to bark for 30 minutes after the suspect left. Number two, that Detective Payne conducted a test to determine that the dog was likely outside while barking. And number three, which is the most important to me, that Murphy was found without any blood on him, even though the bedroom doors were open where the descendants were found. This is a lot to unpack, but let's do it. Let's go back to number one, that Murphy was barking 30 minutes after the suspect allegedly left. Now, it stated in these documents that the same security camera at 1112 King Road that picked up on this struggle and this distorted noises and loud thud, that was the same camera that picked up on this alleged suspect car, the white Hyundai Elantra, leaving the residence at 420. So if Murphy was heard barking, this dog was heard barking 30 minutes after the suspect left. That's till 4:50. From 4:20 to 4:50, allegedly Murphy was barking. How can Dylan Mortensen believe that this was all a dream? How could she believe that her what she experienced and wasn't really real? This dog was barking for 30 minutes. It takes nothing for her to text Kaylee to be like, hey, is everything okay? Murphy's been barking for a very long time. Like, do he need something? Do you need something? XYZ. Did she ever text Kaylee at all regarding Murphy barking this long? Also, number two, where it states that Brett Payne conducted this test that found that Murphy was likely outside while barking. Is there a doggy door? Is there somewhere in that house where Murphy can just let himself outside? And if not, is it a point where someone, a human, has to let Murphy outside? If so, how did Murphy get left outside? Some of you could argue that, oh, the suspect left the sliding glass door open. Or some of you could say, oh, it was someone in that house who let Murphy out. It was Dylan Mortensen who let Murphy out, allegedly. This is just my theories and my thoughts right now. But for Brett Payne to say that whatever test he conducted, it was likely that Murphy was barking outside. So Murphy was barking outside for 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And we're supposed to believe that Dylan Mortensen didn't hear this, or she didn't know it was real. She didn't know if she was dreaming or not. And we're supposed to believe that Bethany Funk didn't hear any of this. I don't know the noises downstairs. I don't know what you can hear outside, what you cannot hear outside. But a lot of people, they constantly say to me, why don't you ever talk about Bethany? It's always Dylan. It's always Dylan. Because I only know stuff about Dylan. I have no foundation for Bethany. Her account of what occurred those early morning hours is still sealed for a good reason, I believe, as well. All right, and let's go back to number three, that Murphy was found with no blood on him, given that the bedroom doors were open where the descendants were found. But he had no blood on him. So if the door is open where Kaylee and Maddie was and Murphy did not go in there, you have to question yourself, like, why? What prevented Murphy from going in there? What prevented him from going in there to check on his owner, who has been his owner for a very long time? Dogs know their owners. They know their scents. They know where they are. Like, they can scent them. They can sniff them out from a mile away. So what would have prevented Murphy from going into that bedroom where Kaylee was if these doors were allegedly open, as the defense is claiming? Also, there's no defense that Dylan Mortensen did not know what was going on. The smell of blood, this was a brutal crime scene. The investigators, the tenured investigators stated that there was blood everywhere. It was a blood bath. Even Kathy Mabbitt, the medical examiner who went there, she said this was one of the bloodiest scenes that she's ever seen. So I don't understand. The smell of blood is something you would know. It's like a strong iron copper kind of smell. It's hard to explain, but you would know when you smell it and if you smell it. I find it hard to believe that if all these doors were open collectively, the smell from these deceased bodies, Dylan Mortensen didn't smell it. Or maybe she thought that was a part of her dream as well, that the fuzzy part that she states. If for the life of me, I cannot understand how all these doors were allegedly open, except for Dylan Mortensen, of course, and yet Murphy did not trot to any other rooms. Is he such that good of a dog that he will stay in that room and sit there with the door open until Kaylee comes and be like, "Come on, Murphy, like let's go pee, let's go do something." You that entire 8 hours, Murphy didn't have to go to the bathroom. I don't. Someone, if Brett Payne is claiming whatever test he conducted that Murphy was likely outside when he was barking, then someone let him back in. Or again, it could be argued that the sliding glass door where this perpetrator allegedly entered and exit was left open. And if it was left open, it also makes me question, oh my God, it makes me question a lot. And I understand I may be like going around in circles right now, but this case is not a normal case. It's not. This case is nowhere near open and shut as the state is trying to paint it to be. 30 minutes this dog was barking. 30 minutes. And you guys want me to believe that Dylan Mortensen did not find it strange. Oh, because she alleged, as she states, this is not me stating it, it's in these documents here. Page 11, it states that she did not know what she was experiencing was real. It states that, again, I believe I was very drunk. You weren't that drunk enough that you encounter all these situations, that you remembered, what you heard. You remember this male voice that you allegedly didn't recognize say, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." She also states that she saw Kaylee Gonzalez running up and down the stairs, and it's in these documents. And then in these documents, it goes on to state that, it was Kaylee going, or Dylan thought it was maybe Kaylee going down because there was a DoorDash, and then Kaylee realized it was a DoorDash for Xana, so she went back up the stairs. I'm like, make it make sense, because it certainly does not. And a lot of people, they constantly say that I have no empathy, no sympathy, for what the two unharmed roommates went through. I absolutely do. It may not show, but I absolutely do. And one thing I don't want to do is get emotionally attached to these victims. Everybody's like, "Oh, imagine yourself in their shoes." I can't do that. I won't do that, because then that will cloud my judgment. Then that will cause me to think from an emotional standpoint. And once you start to do that, you don't get a clear picture of this case. There's still so much more to unpack, but I'm running out of time in this video, so stay tuned for part 4 whenever I upload that. But you guys have 3 videos to digest, and I'm gonna link them all together, merge them all together, and upload them on my YouTube. If you want to wait for that, I will do that today, and I will get on here and let you know when they're available for you to listen to. But you guys need to go over these documents and then re-go over them, because there's a lot that does not make sense. And I'm also going to have to make another video, because the redacted transcript of the hearing that was the end of January, I think January 23rd, where we were given all this information that Dylan Mortensen said she was very drunk, that she didn't know if what she was experiencing was real. That transcript has been uploaded to the Idaho court website as well, so I have to read over that and go through that as well. But I'm running out of time. We'll talk later.